Pastor Cotto. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got 7 o'clock straight up from here, and at this point, I'll bring our meeting to order. If you will, Ms. Ray, would you please call the roll of the City Council?
The Honorable Mayor Mario Avery.
Present.
The Honorable Mayor Pro Tem Hattie Portis Jones. Present. The Honorable Linda J. Davis.
Present.
The Honorable Alex Heath.
Present.
The Honorable Pat Palland.
Present.
The Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood.
Present.
And the Honorable James Whitmore.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. If we will, Pastor Cotto, could you please come forward, sir, and everyone will please stand?
Let us pray. Lord, we are so grateful for your love, for your mercy, for your grace on each one of us. Thank you for Mayor Avery, Lord. Thank you for his calling. Thank you that he's been obedient to your calling. Lord, and we just ask for a special blessing this evening for his whole staff. Lord, for his team, Lord, each one of these ladies and gentlemen that you have put together, Lord, to lead our community. Lord, in the community where we live, where we work, where we laugh, where we cry. And Lord, we just pray that you give them wisdom and courage to go about the agenda tonight, to make the right decision before you. Lord, that our city could be an example and testimony to other cities, what unity looks like. Lord, and we thank you for our police department, our fire department. We just pray, Lord, for their safety and their ins and their outs. And we just want to thank you, Lord, for what you're doing in Fairburn and what you're going to continue doing in Fairburn. We love you, we thank you, and we do ask you for forgiveness for the times that we have failed you. We ask for this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance. Okay, at this time, we don't have any presentations, proclamations. This moment, I'd like to make can I entertain a motion to adopt our city council agenda with item number 1 becoming item number 9 and item number 9 becoming item number 1. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. You have before you the city council minutes that commenced on September the 26th. Can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any corrections? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Ms. Ray, do we have any public speakers?
Mayor, we have no public speakers tonight.
At this time, we do not have any public comments. So we will, at this time, go to our first agenda item, which will actually be
Number 9.
number 9.
This is a contract award for on-call construction management and project management services with Atlas Technical Consultants. The staff recommends mayor and council approve a contract award with Atlas Technical Consultants for on-call construction management and project management services at the city's CDC, CDGC, LMIG, and T-SPLOS programs for a period of 3 years and other special projects required. This item will be presented by the Community Development Department. Excuse me.
You want to go ahead and give your presentation, sir?
Sir, purpose of this agenda item is for Mayor and Council to approve a contract award with Atlas Technical Consultants for on-call construction management and project management services. The request for proposals was released on May 25th, 2022. The scope of work includes construction and project management services for CDBG, LMIG, and T-SPLOS programs for a period of 3 years and other special projects as required. Proposals were due on June 24th, 2022. A total of 4 proposals were received. After completion of the evaluations of the proposals received, it was determined that Atlas Technical Consultants was the most qualified respondent based on the established evaluation criteria. The funding source for these items will be based off of project-specific task orders, Typically, it's 5% of the construction cost. Just want to make a note of that. So, with that being said, staff recommends mayor and council approve contract award with Atlas Technical Consultants for on-call construction management services, construction management and project management services, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement for professional services for these services.
Members of council, you've heard the item announced to you before you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. So,
Motion has been properly second. Any questions or comments by members of council?
just have one question.
Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
How many contracts do we have with Atlas currently? Not counting this one.
Under community development, we have one, and that was for on-call construction management and project management services. So they were the previous vendor, and they were the successful vendor at this time as well.
Okay, so the other one has expired. This replaces that one.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other question by council? And I just want to, and I'm actually glad you asked that question, Ms. Davis. I want to just make sure, one of the things that, as a person that's in the procurement compliance industry, one of the things that I was very hell-bent on, if you'll look at the second page, members of council, you'll see the scoring of the various members. Again, we don't identify the members of the selection committee, and that's deliberate in our efforts not to create a bias, because this item does become public record, in our efforts to ensure the scoring, the people that score objectively based on the information seen. That's part of the reason why we do not show the scoring personnel, and that's again to keep this process as objective and transparent as possible. So again, if you'll look, you'll notice the different. I went through the scoring sheet with a fine-tooth comb personally, just for that very reason. So I just wanted to make sure you understand that. Again, I take pride in us operating, especially in the request for proposal process, which is very technical. So, if there being no other questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Next item is ratification of emergency roof replacement for the police department headquarters. This item is for mayor and council to ratify the procurement with Five Star Commercial Roofing Incorporated for replacement of the roof at the police department in the amount of $48,510. The buildings department will present this.
Go ahead, sir. You want to give us some briefing on this?
Good evening. Here before you an item for the emergency procurement of the roofing replacement at the police headquarters. This is because it was emergency procurement. We're asking that mayor and council ratify the agreement that happened between the city of Fairburn and the vendor Five Star Roofing to replace the entire roof at the police station. The approximate cost for this that we had to pay was $48,510 coming out of the building improvement fund. And just the history on this is due to the known issues that the police station had with leaks and infiltration of environment to the outside, in particular to some critical rooms and areas that could have caused more complicated issues. This had to be done as soon as possible. So that is the presentation.
Members of council, you have before you a ratification of the emergency roof replacement for police department headquarters. Item read to you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's second.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any questions by members of council? Mr. Whitmore, then Ms. Davis, and I can't see if Ms. Jones had. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Whitmore.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I just have one question. As I looked over the packet,
Yes, sir.
and I looked at the 10-year and the 20-year warranty for the roofing system, and I see the 10-year is only their process is 6 items that they use, and for the 20 years, 7 items. Everything is identical except for the last one, which would be the top part, which would be the Starfire aluminum chips.
Yes, sir.
And then I went to look at the actual difference of $4,000 to go from a 10-year to a 20-year. Can you explain to mayor and council or identify the reasons why we went with 10 versus 20, sir?
Sure. As you pointed out, the 10-year roof and the 20-year roof is a different roofing system. The 10-year roofing system has a top coat that's a rubberized roofing system, or tar system, some people call it. The 20-year roofing system is an aluminum chip system. Based on the condition of the building and the problems we were having at the building with leaks and water infiltration, we recommended the 10-year flexurized rubber system that they called it, because of it is better at infiltration protection and mitigating and reducing and eliminating water and leaks into the building. Once that system sets up and cures and becomes hard, it's very hard to penetrate, and it's very hard to damage that because of the materials, the asphalt rubberized material that it is, and it's only that. It also does a pretty good job at sunlight and radiation reflection, versus the aluminum chip application, which is really a two-part process, meaning that with the rubberized process, they demo the old roof, they put on the new layers as described in the packet, and then that rubberized roof sets up, it's done, you walk away, have a nice day. With the aluminum chip roof, you actually apply all the layers except the aluminum chip layer. You wait 30, 60 days, and you come back after that has set and cured to apply the aluminum chips. And then once they set up, then you're done with your roofing system. Also, with aluminum chip roofs, they tend to be, over a long period of time, over the 3 to 5 year mark, to be weaker in the areas of protecting against leaks, because they can cause to bubble up more and they expand more. So they do initially good with reflection of the sunlight and radiation, but then after that, they begin to weaken. So since that was the problem with the police station, we did our due diligence to recommend a product that would be strong in the areas where we were weak.
Okay, and, well, thank you for the explanation. Actually, for full transparency, I did ask that question, and you answered, and it was so fully articulated that I said, oh, okay. So I learned a little something about roofing tonight. So, also the question, a follow-up question would be, so with the application that has been applied to the police station, with the 10-year roofing system, what is your guesstimate about whether or not it's going to be beyond 10 years, or will it be right at 10 years?
That's hard to say, because that just depends on several factors, the building, and then the type of environment that impacts the building, the weather. But usually if you maintain your roofs, they can last longer than the warranty with good maintenance. But it is a good idea as a building owner to, at the point of the end of the warranty, to make certain decisions, or to be in a place to reapply, repair, or just invest in the roof so that you have another extended warranty that covers any sort of issues that may come up.
So preventative maintenance-wise, when we get close to that 10-year mark, we're going to be taking a peek at it.
Before then, yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Ms. Davis.
Yes, that was my exact question in reference to the 10 to the 20. With my reading and seeing the difference was only about $3,000 some dollars. And not that I know a lot about roofing and whatever, but I thought I read somewhere in here where the 10-year was better than the 20-year lasted longer the way it was constructed or put on than the 10-year. I could be in error. You're the expert, I'm not.
So in terms of warranty, yes, it lasts longer. In terms of
Which one lasts longer?
So the 20-year roof will be on your roof longer, and they will warranty longer than that. It becomes problematic in the industry because it has some weaknesses that they don't really divulge in their data. And we had several conversations and did our own due diligence about roofing systems, that you find out that aluminum chip systems and systems that have chips in the roofing application tend to have weaknesses such as being able to bubble up, and bubbling up or to not expand and contract properly leads to leaks. So the first couple of years it's great, but then after you go the first 3 years and you compare both roofing system, the 10-year tends to be stronger in those areas than the 20-year. But companies may not always divulge that because sometimes you're in the business to be in business.
One thing I might add to that is water intrusion became a primary consideration in the due diligence that Mr. Smith conducted, in that the leaks we have most recently experienced, all leaks are bad. This particular leak impacted the evidence room in the police station. And as you can extrapolate, that could be hugely problematic. And so our primary concern was we needed this system that was least likely to be subject to water intrusion. And I'll defer to Mr. Smith's prior explanation, but the 10-year system is known to be more substantial as it relates to water intrusion. And that was the issue that was most prevalent, and the risks to police and many of the things they have to do as it relates to their evidence room. We placed a high priority on water intrusion protection.
Well, thank you, Mr. Smith, for your expert in this area, because I guess the average person reading it
Yes, ma'am.
in reference to the company, that's where I think I did get that information that the 10-year was better. But because of your expertise, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna go to Mr. Heath, and then I'll come back to you, Mr. Whitmore.
Yes, sir. Do you have any idea how old the roof is that's currently on there? Because it seems like it's been within the last 10 years that we had that done, if I'm not mistaken. Chief, are you familiar?
So the roof that was on the building before it was replaced?
It was replaced, yeah.
That roof was substantially old, sir. I walked it before it was replaced. It did not look like it had been replaced within the last 10 years. If they had so, they did not do a great job of
Great.
what they did.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Chief? Yeah.
When I was here before, this was an issue. Only thing they did was patch some of the pieces on it. To my knowledge, it's never been replaced at all. It's never been taken down to where it was.
I was thinking that we'd had leaks in there when I was there as a police officer, and they had been repaired, but I thought they replaced the roof.
They've continued off and on, and have just gotten progressively worse. We were actually getting a bunch of water pouring into the property room.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Whitmore, you had another question?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Also, just for the record, I know you were very meticulous in negotiating a reduction in price, as well as working with one of your colleagues to have a dumpster put out there so they would not add that additional cost onto the city. And I just want to give you your kudos for taking that avenue and that approach, you and Mr. Martin, to actually save the city some money in that regard as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Mr. Martin, who had provided the hookup.
Does any other member of council have any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Item number 3 is a pump station improvement project for mayor and council to approve the bid award recommendation for Crawford Grading and Piping Incorporated in the amount of $457,761.55 for the pump station improvement project. The Utilities Department would be presenting this item.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
On the agenda tonight, Utilities Department, specifically the Sewer Division, is seeking approval of the bid award recommendation for Crawford Grading and Pipeline Incorporated to improve and upgrade all city pump stations. The city of Fairburn has 4 pump stations. They're known as John Rivers, Fireside, Evergreen, and Shaw stations. The lift stations, as they are commonly known, are designed to move wastewater or sewage from a lower to a high elevation using a collection system. These pump stations are often used to move wastewater from residential and commercial facilities to their final destination, and that for us being the Fulton County Wastewater Treatment Plant. Evergreen and Fireside are currently at full capacity, and future development will possibly have to be denied. However, the age, constant sewer overflows, and costly maintenance issues of these pump stations made it a necessity to rehab them to prevent operational failures. Integrated science, engineering assisted city staff during the competitive bidding process. The Bid was closed on June the 30th, 2022, with one bid received for $508,915. Under staff recommendation, a revised cost value engineering meeting was held to lower costs. During the meeting, certain items were deemed not as urgent and removed from the project. It was also recommended that Fairburn buy the pumps directly from Go Forth Williamson Incorporated to avoid sales tax and contract markup. A total of $51,153 was saved from the original cost of that project. As such, Crawford Grading and Pipeline Incorporated was awarded the bid award recommendation as the official bidder. As far as the expenditures, $175,000 will come out of the American Rescue Act account, and $282,762 will come from the water and sewer account. The total expenditures will not exceed $457,762. At this time, staff recommends that the mayor and council approve the bid award recommendation for Crawford Grading and Pipeline Incorporated in the amount of $457,761.55 for the pump station improvement project.
Members of council, you have before you a pump station improvement project item that just been read. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments by council? Go with Mr. Whitmore.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of questions for you. I understand we do have the 4 pump stations, and in my previous position as Durham Lake's president, I know that we had a number of failures out there on John Rivers Road at that pump station. Since that time, there has been major growth within the city of Fairburn. And in your opinion, you already stated that because they're at full capacity, so we wouldn't be able to do any more building. But what are we looking at as far as preventative to replace some of these pumps with a larger pump so that we can continue to grow within the city of Fairburn?
That's correct. The pump size in this here estimate has been in the bid to upsize those to a larger capacity, which can make it flow. And if there's any additional subdivisions or development there, we can maintain. Also, the outlet areas of the sewer have been enlarged. They will be enlarged as well to do somewhat of a vertex effect to where that it'll take the mass, stream it down into a smaller pipe, and keep it going.
Mm-hmm. So right now, City of Fairburn, we have the one that we're going to be working on where we're going to be increasing the size of that pump station, a pump, correct?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, it's going to be all of them.
It's going to be all of them.
Yes.
So we're increasing capacity on all 4 pumps.
That's correct.
And that's going to put us in position where we can continue to grow.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any
Oh,
other?
and also,
Oh, I'm sorry,
Mayor.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't.
we appreciate that $51,000 savings too.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You finished, sir? Okay. Anyone else have a comment on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Mr. Martin, are there plans in the works to develop one additional pump station so that the city will have 5 in the future?
There's been talk in the planning stage of it. There haven't been any further development about it, but our strong recommendation was for the new subdivision to aid into adding another one there to service that area as well as to keep it flowing to Fulton County, so there wouldn't be any bottlenecks anywhere.
Where would that additional pump station be?
From right now, it was talk of Legend Creek, the proposed subdivision.
Okay. All right, so what's, you said there was a proposal, there was a plan for it. If the money was available, are we shovel ready to begin that project? Could we be shovel-ready, I should ask?
is this for this one, or are we talking about Legend Creek?
An additional one.
The addition, oh,
Mayor Pro Tem, this is Tony Phillips. So this particular item addresses increasing the capacity for the existing four. To your question about a fifth added pump station, we are in the due diligence stage of that project right now to determine, one, is it necessary? Two, where is it optimally positioned? And three, how do we fund it? So those questions are on the table, but we have not completed the due diligence on that for the fifth pump station. The item that is before council tonight will provide adequate capacity for the foreseeable future. So we believe that increasing the size of the pump stations, the four existing ones, will position us to continue development. We will not have to deny any developments or anything of that nature. But to your question, it is not the long-term solution, i.e. as we look at the 5-10-year window and beyond, yes, we will have to definitely anticipate with the growth of the city a fifth station, and we anticipate completing that due diligence and bringing a recommendation to council for that fifth pump station.
All right, I really appreciate that. And the reason I ask is because of the Biden infrastructure bill and its potential for funding such a project. And so, I want to encourage us to be as shovel-ready as possible to take advantage of those funds. So thank you so much for that.
Any other member, council have any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
thank you, Karen.
Next item.
Item number 4 is an RFP 2022-17 property condition assessments for mayor and council to approve the award of RFP 2217 to Bureau Veritas for property condition assessment services in the amount not to exceed $66,138. The building department will be presenting this.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Good evening. So this item before you is for mayor and council to approve award of the aforementioned RFP 2022-017 to Bureau Veritas Technical Assessments. And RFP was put out for solicitation on August 26th, and after several weeks and several vendors applied and solicited bids, and after scoring by the evaluation committee, we're recommending to award that to Bureau Veritas in the amount of $66,138 out of the building renovation fund.
Members of council, you have before you for RFP 22-17 property condition assessment item that's been read. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments by council? Ms. Davis, go ahead.
Clarification. So this bid is just to assess all the buildings that's listed here in reference to their condition or lack thereof,
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Just assessment.
Just an assessment of the buildings and the amenities in the hardscape, what we call hardscape, the parking lot, sidewalks around the buildings. To the point, it's an assessment of all the building systems, including roof, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, parking lot, sidewalks, roofing, walls, floors, anything that can be seen. They will assess the integrity and the conditions of those systems.
Okay. Is there a timeline for this?
Yes.
Yes, no. It's actually it's in the bid packet. It was in the bid. We gave them an aggressive timeline that from award, they had approximately 25 days from notice to proceed in initial meeting to complete the assessment, and then a subsequent another couple of weeks to provide a draft report and then final report of the assessment.
Councilwoman Davis, I would add to that, this is a precursor effort to the $3.1 million in facility improvements that the council has already approved in the American Rescue Plan Act. We want to spend that money as wisely and as fiscally responsibly as we can. In order to do that, we need to know what we are looking at in terms of every facility. We need a detailed assessment. Oftentimes the things that may be most obvious to the eye may not be the most critical things that we need to be working on. So that $3.1 million doesn't go as far as many people would assume. So it's important that we spend it wisely, that we address priority issues first. What this vendor will do will assess every facility, and they will prioritize the issues in each building in terms of what is an immediate repair, what is something that's secondary, and things that can wait. That way we can spend that $3.1 million on our most critical issues. And so it's a really important first step. Before we spend any money, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with in every facility so that we get the most bang for our buck.
Right, great. Thank you.
I had a question. The only question I had, I noticed as I was going through the different scoring of the vendors that's scoring. My question is, this one vendor in this case is actually scored pretty much head and shoulders above the rest. Can you tell me, was it a time frame, the aggressive schedule, what was it that made this vendor stand out more than, and truthfully, I was a little surprised they didn't have more vendors, to be totally honest with it, being on this.
So I could tell you from the committee's conversation after we individually scored, this vendor jumped out because of their understanding of the project and their proposed administration. I believe in this packet you'll see how the software and the reporting that they plan to provide. All the other vendors did not provide the same level of information on how they plan to administer the project, as well as the understanding of what we were looking for as assessments and thorough investigations of the properties. Also, this vendor kind of, along with maybe one other vendor, stood above in terms of expertise and staffing qualifications of what they were going to put on the project. I know looking at the packet, you don't see all the other packets that we got, but everybody did not line up in all the areas. So the scoring reflects based on the criteria in the RFP about qualifications of staff, expertise, understanding of the project, and then project administration. So,
Gotcha. Any other questions of council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Item number 5 is to purchase the purchase of one engine pumper for the fire department, for mayor and council to approve the purchase of one engine pumper in the amount not to exceed $226,000. This item is being presented by the fire department.
Right. Good evening again.
Good evening.
Before you, fire department is asking to approve the purchase of one engine pumper for the fire department. Of course, we went over the history of this unit. We've had a lot of mechanical and computer issues with this engine. This engine has failed us on a couple of working incidents. And the pumper that we're replacing is the one we utilized through the AFG grant back in 2020. Pierce Manufacturing has agreed to take the engine back and build us a new one. And they're gonna build us this engine for a fraction of the cost. The cost of a new engine would be $679,100. But the cost to replace this 2020 engine through Pierce Manufacturing will be $197,100, along with the preventative maintenance service contract of $29,000, which give us a total of $226,000. This purchase will give the city a cost savings of $453,100. So the fire department is asking mayor and council to approve this purchase for the replacement fire engine from 10-8 Fire Equipment and Safety Incorporated at a cost not to exceed $226,000.
Members of council, you have before you the purchase of one engine pumper for the fire department as stated on the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second, properly second. Is there any questions or concerns?
One question.
Mr. Whitmore, then Ms. Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. And this question would actually go to the city administrator or finance. I think we've talked about this previously. So this was already put into the new budget, correct?
Correct.
So we're not making any changes to the budget. Everything is,
There is a budget amendment on this agenda, at the end of the agenda, that does include a amendment to the budget. So we will detail that in the budget amendment to come. This is the item, however, and I'll let Mr. David speak to that in just a moment. This is the item, to your point, that we did discuss in the last work session relative to the engine that has been inoperable, more than it's been operable. We're getting a significant credit which allows for what Chief just shared with us. We're able to, in essence, get a new fire engine that would typically cost close to $680,000 for $226,000. I'll pause and let Mr. David address the question in reference to funding.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Evening.
As Mr. Phillips stated, the budget amendment that we present tonight will detail the funding requirements for the fire pumper. Due to the cost savings, when we initially made the FY23 budget, the pumper would be able to be funded. The amendment request, as I will detail later, the increase is due to other projects and other revenue sources that will be coming in. So that's why of the increase.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for, because I thought that we already covered it, and it was definitely. So this is, the other aspect is something else. Okay, thank you. Thank you much.
Ms. Davis, you had a question?
Okay, yes. Chief, I noticed here that at our last work session, the total that you had given us for the new engine and the maintenance service contract was $235,000. So I see you've done some negotiations with the service agreement. You dropped it from $38,120 to $29,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations.
Thank you. John, I
Yeah.
got a hookup too.
Who had the hookup?
John, he's got
John,
it.
John be having those hookups on it.
Any other question by members of council?
I have one.
Go ahead, Mr. Heath.
Yes, sir. Do you have any idea how long it'll take them to build this new one that we're talking about?
It's on the assembly line now. We should get it May of 2023.
May, okay, thank you.
Oh, and also, they're gonna provide us a loaner while we're waiting on our new truck.
Great.
No cost?
No cost to the city.
Awesome.
Congratulations on that. Bye.
Seeing no other questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 6 is the RFP 2215 Fire Station Number 23 Design Services for Mayor and Council to approve the award of RFP 2215 to Piper O'Brien Hair Architects for design services for Fire Station Number 23 in the amount not to exceed $266,660. The Building Department will present this item.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
So yes, before you have an item for Mayor and Council to approve the award of RFP 22-15 to Piper O'Brien Hair Architects. The RFP was put out for bid solicitation on August 9th. It was closed on September 9th. And after the scoring by the committee and evaluation by the committee, we will recommend award to Piper O'Brien Hair, or POH, as they're called, in the amount of $266,660.
Members of council, you have before you RFP 22-015 Fire Station Number 23 Design Services, as stated in the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion is by Mr. Whitmore and second by Ms. Davis. Any questions or comments by council? Mr. Whitmore, go ahead, sir.
Just one. This would be more or less for Chief. Yeah, Chief, I know we've been waiting a long time for this, but I also know that you went and you took some of council with you to look at various fire stations to make sure we're going to get the best for our dollar. And I know that you have major input when we start putting this together, so you will be in total communication with them so that we can get what it is you feel we need for a city that's growing.
Absolutely.
That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Any other comments by council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Number 7, resolution authorizing the City of Fairburn to enter into an IGA with the City of South Fulton for the White Mill Road Full Depth Reclamation Project. Through the proposed agreement, the city of Fairburn will be responsible for $158,400 or 9% of the construction cost, which is $1,760,000. Staff recommends the mayor and council approve the resolution to enter into the intergovernmental agreement with the city of South Fulton for the White Mill Road Full Depth Reclamation Project, the community development.
Go ahead, sir.
Sir, White Mill Road is partially within inside the city of South Fulton and partially inside the city of Fairburn. It's in desperate need of maintenance. Both cities feel it's in the mutual best interest to enter into an IGA for the purpose of a regional transportation improvement project that will beautify and provide roadway improvements for both cities. Through the proposed agreement, the city of Fairburn will be responsible for $158,400 or 9% of the construction costs. The city of South Fulton would be responsible for $1.6 million, $1,601,600 or 91% of the construction costs. The IGA is a formal means by which to come into agreement between the two cities. The expenditures will come out of T-SPOS 2 infrastructure roadway account. As such, staff recommends mayor and council approve the resolution to enter into an IGA with the city of South Fulton White Mill Road Full Depth Reclamation Project. Any questions?
Let me bring that item to the floor. And members of council, you have a resolution authorizing the city of Fairburn to enter into an IGA with the city of South Fulton for White Mill Road Full Depth Reclamation Project as stated in the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments by council?
Just one, Mayor.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
With this particular project, do you have a date, approximate date on when they're looking at starting it? And the reason I'm asking, I know LGI is still building out there, still have trucks coming up and down that roadway, and our portion is going to be closer to Rivertown Road, correct? Rivertown and,
That's correct.
so,
From my understanding, they've already awarded the contract, so they're waiting on the NTP. I can follow up with you and get you an exact NTP date from the city of South Fulton.
okay. And LGI, are they close to being completed over there, or no?
Hadn't even resumed construction yet.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other member of council have a question? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Next item.
Number 8 is a contract award for on-call professional engineering and landscape architectural services with Pond & Company. Staff recommends mayor and council approve a contract award with Pond & Company for on-call construction management and project management services, which include civil engineering, site development plan review, to include landscape plan review services and other special projects as needed over a period of 3 years. Community Development will be presenting this item.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. The request for proposal was released on May 25th, 2022. The scope of work includes civil engineering, site development, plan review services to include landscape plan review services and other special projects as needed for a period of 3 years. Proposals were due on June 24th. A total of 5 proposals were received. After completion of the evaluation, it was determined that Pond was the respondent most qualified to perform the work based on the established criteria. The funding source will be determined by a specific project task. However, plan review assistance will come out of the Public Works Administration Professional Services account. As such, staff recommends mayor and council approve the contract award with Pond & Company for on-call construction management and for on-call professional engineering and landscape architectural services, and authorize the mayor and council to sign, authorize the mayor to sign that agreement for professional service for these services.
Members of council, you have before you a contract for an on-call professional engineering and landscape architectural services with Pond & Company as stated in the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions by council? I've got one question. My question is, and if it doesn't fall up under this scope of service, you can just tell me that's another area. My concern is just making sure as we go through all the renovation and all the projected development that's going to happen in our downtown area, hopefully in the next 18 months. And just, I don't know the way to ask is the issue that we had right here at Oz Pizza where this body had to approve, I believe it was $149,000 change order. My question is that fall within this scope? I'm trying to make sure what vehicles in place to make sure we never encounter that type of major change. That's, I mean, I don't know the way to put it. That's almost unacceptable, that kind of, that type of money in a change order. And so I guess my question would be, is this vendor part what will help us ensure change orders basically of that magnitude? I know things happen, never happen again.
They can do peer reviews. So
Can do what?
They can do peer reviews.
Okay, explain that for me.
A peer review is when one professional engineering firm can review the plans of another professional firm to look at constructability issues.
Okay.
They can do that. That would be something that could prevent something like that from happening in the future.
Right, and in all fairness to staff, just looking at, I don't know how you kept up with what you did a year ago today. I swear I don't. When I looked at the volume of work that I was reviewing and what was required in terms of reviews, and so I guess my question would this company be a company you would use for that type of, in this case, nothing else but another set of eyes in terms of engineering and architectural review? Is that what this firm would help us with for the most part?
We do on the community development projects, the private development projects, as far as like Tractor Supply. They assist on the plan review on projects like that.
Gotcha.
So that's what would be their responsibility, and primary responsibility, but they also help on design services for pedestrian improvement projects. They helped on the Cora Robinson Park. They helped on the design on that park, and on the Dodge Street Community Plaza, Malone Street pedestrian improvement project, the Rivertown Road pedestrian improvement project. So they helped me on the design on all those projects as well.
Gotcha. And staff, I mean, for members of council, I don't know if you ever seen the I call it the Excel expert sheet that Lester uses to keep up with the money along with the just the volume. I mean, when I say volumes, and that's why I'm asking, because again, I say it publicly, don't know how you kept up with that volume of work in terms of money, in terms of audit, in terms of compliance, as well as in terms of staying in compliance with architecture, engineering, building code. So again, that's why I'm asking this question. Any other members of council got a question? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. We'll go to the last item.
Item number 9 is the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 budget amendment. Staff recommends, I'm sorry, let me go to my number 1. Staff recommends mayor and council approve the amendment to the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. The amendment will increase the budget $1,014,255, and the new fiscal year 2022-2023 budget will be $64,032,712. The finance department will be presenting this item.
Sir, you want to go ahead and just explain what we're looking at?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I come before you tonight to request an amendment to the FY23 budget. The FY23 budget was approved on September 12, 2022. Since then, staff has been working diligently to improve the city, provide services, and bring in new streams of revenue. I am requesting an increase in the budget this evening. $196,493 will come from the general fund, $535,000 from other funds. The increase in the budget is due to $59,000 in grant awards received by Rex and Parks, budget carry forward for LCI master plan, the fire pumper that you just approved earlier, IT positions from the comp study, and of course the lift station that was also approved. Staff is requesting mayor and council approve the amended budget for fiscal year 23 from $63,018,457 to $63,749,950.
Members of council, you have before you a proposed fiscal year budget of 2022-2023 budget amendment in the item that's stated in the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Smallwood. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heath. Any questions or comments by council? Ms. Davis.
Yes, Mr. David.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you explain to me in reference to two IT staff members, why is that such a need right now for us to go through this entire budget that we spent a lot of time on looking at discussions, comp study, and first answer this question, because I'm befuddled here, really.
So to answer your question, I do not have a background in IT. I know the bare minimum to get things by. A couple of weeks ago, we had an issue where our services were down in the city. We do have a third-party vendor that provides us services, but because they were not on site, staff had to maneuver, use Wi-Fi devices, personal phone devices just to get work done in the city. Administration had a discussion, and part of the comp study was to make sure that we have enough resources on hand that does not stop services from being provided to our citizens. And you can imagine if we don't have someone on site when internet services go down, it's a problem. Because we have police officers that depend on those internet services to perform their tasks and duties. Firefighters depend on all those services as well. So we are trying to make sure that if something happens, we have someone who can jump in the fire and get things done and make sure that that connection is still here.
So let me add just a little additional context to Mr. David's explanation. This was contemplated throughout the process, even when we were looking at the budget. This is not a new need. This is one of a number of services in the city that had been tasked to employees who had other primary functions. One of the employees that is essentially by default functioned as an on-site IT manager is out on medical leave. And so we've had to get by as best we can. And roughly 10 days ago, approximately, Mr. David, is when, due to a power surge, our systems went down. Essentially, we had no connectivity in any city department for 5 consecutive business days. And so part of what the comp study simultaneously identified is that for a city of our size, it is typical, looking at the 22 cities that they used for data in the comp study, cities our size typically have an IT manager on staff, on site. And so the bottom answer to that is we've grown to the point where we now have a need to have someone on site. We still utilize VC3 as our network administrator, but there's no one here in the city every day from VC3. The contract that we currently have does not provide for that. So we need to move in the direction of having on-site IT staff, and that may change our needs going forward as it relates to contracts like VC3. We manage those resources going forward.
So will we still be using VC3, and what does VC3's contract cost in addition to the 2 IT people that we're going to hire? What is that cost for us to have to go through this entire budget and reduce departments' budgets, some to the tune of $163,000?
So the reason the department heads' budgets were reduced was because in the beginning, when we did the FY23 budget, we kicked in a 20% budget increase due to the comp study. Once the comp study was finalized across the board in the city, we realized it was too much funds. So that's why you see the decrease in everyone's departments.
No one's operational budget was decreased.
I'm sorry?
So no department's operational budget was decreased. What Mr. David is explaining is, as you recall through the budget process, we budgeted a 20% personnel allotment in anticipation of the comp study. We knew there would be pay raises. When we got the results of the comp study, which you approved at the last meeting, it did not require that entire 20%. What you see is the refund from the difference.
Okay.
So nobody's department has been reduced. So let me
Okay,
be
I mean, I'm like, did we inflate it in the beginning if we got to come back and reduce it?
No, it was the 20% we set aside as an estimate for the raises we knew would come in the comp study. We did that as a conservative set aside. We didn't anticipate that it would be 20% across the board with the comp study, but not knowing what that number was, we wanted to set aside enough in the budget to ensure that whatever came back, we could fund it. And so that's where that refund essentially comes from, is the 20% set aside, which now that we have an approved comp study, it didn't require 20% of our personnel budget.
It was,
to accommodate those raises.
okay, it was 5%? Is that,
Not
or-
5%. Certain departments had about 5%, others were 15, but across.
5% was the minimum that all employees received in the comp study, but all employees were brought to the minimum of the new classification pay range. So if I'm 10% below the new minimum, I got a 10% increase.
Okay.
So it wasn't a consistent 5% for everyone. And so it varied depending on where you were vis-a-vis the new pay scale and where your current pay rate was. And so if you're 10% below, you got brought up to the new pay range. That was a 10% increase. Everyone at a minimum, regardless as to where they were, got a minimum of 5%.
okay, so with these changes, will these changes compensate the 2 IT people that we need?
Yes.
And did the comp study come back saying that we needed 2 IT people in this fiscal budget year?
Yes, and that was in the presentation that Evergreen did at a work session, I believe at the September,
26th,
meeting?
the first meeting in September, I believe.
12th.
September 12th meeting. Evergreen was here and did a presentation. I know that's been several meetings ago, but they specifically identified those 2 IT positions in their recommendations to the city.
Okay, so that these reductions will compensate for those
Yes.
salaries
Yes,
of the IT people?
exactly.
And
Okay,
if
okay.
I may add to a concern you got, Mr. Davis, if you guys remember, actually at my inauguration, because at the time I did not have a full understanding of full scope of where our city was as it relates to operations, that was an area of concern because of, and I said it at my inauguration, so I can say it again, because the night before my inauguration, our systems were hacked substantially. This is an area not only to address a need that's needed, this is also a step to put in place that regardless of who the mayor, regardless of what council folk or city manager is in place, the person, for systems to be hacked to the degree that they were, that's a person on staff now responsible that to tell me how could this happen and tell me how, why did you let it happen, basically. So again, in this case, we're actually, in this case, as it been mentioned, that our government has now grown to a substantial level in terms of a, level of professional that not only wants, it demands this level of IT expertise in-house. Because like any other vendor that you do, again, and the people would tell you, I ran VC3 through the mill my first month here, asking them hundreds and hundreds of questions, only for me to find out vehicles that I just assumed were in place that were not. And so now will ensure that regardless of, even if we, to answer your other question, even if we hold on to VC3, there will be minimum standards that government requires, regardless of what size your government, that now the person in charge of IT for our city will be the person we hold responsible if these particular programs are not in place from an IT perspective. So again, I just wanted to let you know the questions are well intended, and but this was a twofold situation.
Yeah.
We were blessed that we turned around and at 20%, we didn't have to spend the entire 20% put aside for the comp study, because that was an area of my concern for 2023.
Yeah.
So a couple of additional points to consider. It is the conservative management of our budget and setting aside an appropriate amount for the comp study that has given us the ability to fund these positions. So I want to give Mr. David credit for that. That recommendation is what created the ability for us to fund these positions that were recommended in the comp study. Secondly, VC3 serves as our network administrator is the best way to phrase that. But as it relates to the day-to-day operational needs of IT in the city, there is no one here that manages that. That's everything from setting up computers to managing cell phones, all of our assets, helping to formulate IT budgets when we go to what computers should we be buying. Right now, that's kind of an open process. That's not typically the most efficient way to do that. You need an IT person on staff that can determine what our needs are. When we order computers, we order from an approved list that's been managed by someone with that skill set. That relates to cell phones, that relates to a little of everything. When I went into Mr. David's office probably last Thursday, it's 5 o'clock in the evening, he's got cords on the floor and devices because he's going over to the court
The court system.
and he's the finance director, to try to help them get their computers going. I appreciate him for doing that. Dr. Parks did that for a number of years, and other folks jump in to help out where we can. We're a team. We're going to make sure that the city has what it needs, but it's a more optimal to get someone with that skill set because we've grown, can help us manage those issues the right way.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Phillips, for sharing and reminding me about the 20% that was buffed into the budget. I feel a lot better. I can exhale now.
Mr. Small, we'll go ahead,
Now,
sir.
will the IT people also do like, because I know companies I work with, they also do training, you know, as far as knowing what's phishing, what's, you know, so I know good IT people also ensure that the staff understands what this digital landscape is all about too. So I know that's another area that will be beneficial for our city.
Exactly.
Because like I say, we're now getting the city to where it should be.
Exactly.
You know, like you say, any company of repute has a IT person on there because they're all of these things that they do. So
Exactly.
will they be doing that as well?
They will be doing that as well, Councilor Smallwood. That's a good point. And there are a lot of times when you're sitting at your desk and something's not working right.
Yeah.
And right now, there's no one to come to your office and get you over the hump. And now we have someone that I can only help with training, but who's just a building or two away. And when you're having those issues, can come out, make sure we manage them efficiently.
Yes.
Any other, Mr. Whitmore, go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So when we were down for 5 days, and we don't have to go over all the particulars, but in my mind, I thought VC3, it was part of their contract where they would have someone physically come to the city and perform those functions to get us back up quickly.
Oh, well, quickly is a subjective term. I can tell you that they got an earful from the city administrator. The first 24 hours, I didn't see anyone, and I made it abundantly clear that we needed someone on site, and they did respond. And for the duration of that time, they were diagnosing the issue. It was a combination of not only some challenges on our network side, but also with Comcast, who is our provider. And so between the two entities, they were diagnosing the issue for a number of days under close scrutiny from city staff. And so they did get someone on site, but we had to get them to respond and send someone as opposed to having someone here.
Understood.
So VC3 will still be providing that level of support. It's kind of network administration, and so their contractual obligations have not changed. And so should we have those challenges in the future, I will again ensure that VC3 responds, as they did this time, appropriately, but we'll also have an IT manager on site and help them to diagnose those issues. In this instance, I believe had we had an IT manager, we may have zeroed in on the issue a lot quicker. We ultimately found out there was a defective piece of equipment that it took us quite a few days to zero in on. We're putting some measures in place to make that easier in the future.
Great. And also, my question would be, once we get our IT manager and support technician, some of those responsibilities that VC3 has will no longer be required, and their contract can or cannot be reduced.
I would tell you that would have us completely review our IT needs as a city.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
So we would thoroughly review and assess what our IT needs are and make cost-appropriate adjustments where we can.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions by members of council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
At this time, I've actually, give me 1 second. I'm going to go to council comments, and I'm going to make a comment at the very end. Give me 1 second. Okay, at this point, I believe I can go to council comment. I'll start with, did I miss an item? I didn't miss an item, okay. I thought I had another page, okay. At this point, I'll go to Mayor Pro Tem.
No comments, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'll go to Councilman Whitmore.
Just a couple of things, Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Had the opportunity of visiting Victoria Estates on Saturday, their HOA. Was able to give some city updates. and answered a lot of questions that they had in reference to their community. And also, there was a lot of questions that I could not answer, which I will be forwarding over to the city administrator. We already talked about a few of those issues, so I'm sure they'll be looking forward to hearing from them. Victoria Estates is probably about the same age as the community Durham Lakes. So it was interesting just going and listening to a lot of the things that they had going on. And they only asked me to come there to speak from a president's perspective in reference to the covenants, and just to hear their process and everything. They're on the right track. They had to get rid of some vendors to move them onto the right track, but they're doing good. So very good HOA community. The other is I had the opportunity of going to Margie's House first annual golf tournament on yesterday. It was a beautiful event. It was held at Top Golf. And I tell you what, the things that I've learned that Margie's House does, number one, over 800 families are serviced each month, which is phenomenal. And I know for a fact that during the pandemic, they were out there 3, sometimes 4 days a week, trying to make sure that the food desert did not affect people that did not have the revenue or the resources to keep food on their tables. So just to see everything that they were doing, and the project that they're working on is they have outgrown using the inside of the church for their giveaway. So they're trying to find a building that they can keep the process going without breaking down the church and then resetting up the church for Sunday morning services. And hopefully on Wednesday, I'll have a count of where they finished at. And we're just hopeful that we'll be able to find someplace here in the city of Fairburn. They are very well known and well liked, and I know found out yesterday that they also started out wanting to do a food bank in Atlanta, but they realized the need here in the South Fulton area, and they came to Fairburn, and they want to stay here. So it's great just having Margie's House and her nonprofit here. And if any of you would like to contribute to this great task that they're undertaking, please go to margieshouse.com and do so. But we had a great time, and by all. So thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Go to Mr. Pally.
No comment.
Okay, I come to Mr. Heath.
No comment.
Mr. Smallwood.
I just like to always not always, but kudos to all the staff and the excellence. It's always just great to hear everybody just come up, deliver their reports or whatever they have going on, and just the details, and just, just is a wonderful city. I still love it. My favorite time of year now, so I sit out, and it's just still that quaint but progressive city. So I thank you all, because you all make that happen. Thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Davis.
No comments, Mayor.
Okay. I do have a report I just want to read into the record in this case. I just want to give the public an update on our local option sales tax that's going on between the 15 cities and the county. The local option sales tax is a 1% sales tax activated by local referendum. It's actually 45 states out of 50 actually have a local option sales tax, 45. Out of those 45 states, every county within the state the county, along with the cities inside of that county, negotiate a 1% sales tax, or negotiate what is basically up. And I'm trying to explain it where I can make it real simple. Basically, in this case, the Department of Revenue issues a big lump sum, almost like a tax return. Every 10 years, the states that have a local option sales tax, you negotiate the terms and the percentage of the pot. And so right now, loss is one of the most significant sources. In 2019, the cities received $745 million in lost revenues. Loss accounts for 19% of municipal general funds. And so what I asked the city manager to help me as I was preparing this report, in this case, the loss of local option sales tax, which is abbreviated loss, in this case, would create for the city of Fairburn. A person that owns a home in the city of Fairburn right now has a property tax of $382. That tax would go up by $216. A person with a home that equates to $200,000 in value pays $765. That property tax would go up by $432. A home of $300,000 that pays $1,147, the tax would go up by $648. I'm explaining this to you from the perspective of it is that important right now, the negotiations that's going on between the 15 mayors, which is an unbelievable situation where you have 15 cities, in this case 15 mayors, and they're with their council support, of course, that all in agreement right now that we have to come to an agreement. All the 15 cities, I don't have to name them, we got 15 cities from Alpharetta all the way to Chet Hills are in agreement that the Fulton County cities within it could face a fiscal crisis for residents, businesses, and taxpayers if we cannot agree and come to terms with the Fulton County government. We spent the entire day, and just for the record, I actually have to take a vacation day every time I sit through these negotiations. And so, unfortunately, we spent 6 hours only for our negotiations to fall completely apart at 4 o'clock Friday evening. And the local option sales tax has one purpose, and that is to reduce property taxes for essential services such as fire, police, EMS, 911, street traffic control, and planning and zoning. Unfortunately, the services that the Fulton County, in this case, have actually mentioned that they needed to fund, in this case would be the jail and several services that do not qualify under state law as eligible for local option sales tax funding. And so again, that's what the mayors and myself agree right now as we sat in a room with the Fulton County government. I want to just make sure, in close of it, I wrote a lot. In this case, it says, having offered Fulton County, and just so we be real clear publicly what happened, having offered Fulton County negotiators a 43% increase in what the county collects from the local option sales tax. 15 cities ended the negotiation this past Friday when the county countered offered proposal that demanded $550 million, a $343 million or 163% increase. At which time the mayor of Atlanta, who has been the most vocal in this case in our negotiations right now, has made it clear again as we follow his lead that we all must stand strong because again, the city of Atlanta, obviously being the capital city, has the biggest amount of money to lose, multi-millions and millions of dollars. The 15 mayors, again, as we stood united, just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. We asked basically in this case, the offer from the cities, the county will cover the health care. We even, in our offer to the county, our final offer before the negotiations broke down, the county indicated that they needed health care expenses. We increased our offer to facilitate that very need. Unfortunately, it just did not. Again, Mayor, because again, it was stated publicly, many of the mayors are asking the questions as it relates to the local option sales tax issue. If the county needs the money, why did they just approve a millage rate reduction? And so that's the argument that's coming between the mayors. We had a town hall meeting a week ago, last Wednesday, I believe it was, whereby all the mayors, most of them from North Fulton, actually came to the convention center. And again, we stand united in our efforts. Again, this is, the mayors all agree, we have to come to agreement with the Board of Commissioners in the cities, or every single one of us in the very, almost as recent, as early as the first month of the year, we'll be having a special call meeting talking about a tax increase. And that'll be very unfortunate. I'm still convinced that we can come to an agreement, but I thought it would be only fair for me to come to the body and to just give publicly what all the other mayors are actually doing as well, and that is making sure that their colleagues as well as their residents are aware. What we're asking you to do is simply contact your county commissioners, and we're simply asking, please negotiate with the mayors in good faith in our efforts to come to a deal that's acceptable to both the county and the mayors, because again, it doesn't help us, and I want to say publicly, I stated this at the town hall, several commissioners have made it seem as if the mayors are trying to embarrass them. That nobody wins. Having been through this now myself twice, nobody wins trying to embarrass another agency. But what happens is, if you notice, all of the information that we have presented publicly, our information is based in fact. One of the, as relates to the issues, I think one of the commissioners mentioned mental health in this case, that they need to fund or whatever like that. Again, as relates to, we laid out at the town hall meeting, the items that the local option sales tax by state law, that's not our decision. The state law says what you can and cannot use local option sales tax for. And so right now, we're stipulating trying to stay within those boundaries in our efforts to come to agreement. I believe we will come to an agreement, because if we don't, the people that vote for us and that vote for them will be impacted substantially. And so that I wanted to just give an update as we continue to go back, hopefully this Friday, and start negotiating in good faith. With that news, I want to also mention that we've got the Fairburn Festival this weekend. On a positive note. And so, but just again, at this point, we, Mr. City Attorney, we do have one item, a litigation item, right?
3 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Litigation, right?
Okay, let me
Okay,
get
members of council, can I entertain a motion to go into executive session for a litigation matter?
So move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Everybody in the galley saw that.
yesterday. We're now back in regular session. Can I entertain a motion? Can I entertain a motion to adjourn? But I'm sorry, I have to make a motion to come back in the regular session, right? Okay, can I entertain a motion to come back in the regular session?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smallwood, second by Ms. Davis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Now, we're now back in regular session. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Davis, second by Mr. Keith. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Have a great night, ladies and gentlemen.